Hello and welcome to episode 67 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bolin, and with me, as always, is Austin Dallonga. Not with us is Zachary Foth. I believe he's studying. Take him for his word on it. But Ozzy, how are things?
Things are pretty good. Other than the treacherous downpour of rain that we're getting right now. But I mean, Southern Alberta, the farmers will love it, so you can't complain, I guess.
I love how we all speak for the farmers, man. Like I've heard it so many times. It's like from non-farmers. They're like, oh, I'm sure they love this. Like, what if it's just flooding their crops? Like, we don't know. Like,
with how hard it's coming
yeah,
down, I feel like some crops
like,
are getting destroyed right now. But
like the farmers will love this, and the camera pans to a farmer, and like he's lost everything. And it's like,
he's just standing there getting rained on like crazy. He's got a pitchfork or whatever, just like rain.
Stereotypical pitchfork, eh?
Yeah.
Ozzy, we're covering the AFC West today, our last AFC division, and time's kind of flown, actually. We started this right after the draft, I believe, and then we've had a couple interviews in between, and we're moving on to the NFC presumably next week unless we line something up. But I almost like forget the records that I said for the AFC East when we first did this. So like I think what the idea is here we're going to have them all here, and then maybe when we're done everything, we'll have a comprehensive, like, here's what our records predictions were for all these teams and who we maybe think are making the playoffs. And then I'm sure when training camp hits and there's injuries, we'll do it all again at the end of August, maybe in one episode, a preview episode, mind you. And so I'm looking forward to that. But before we get to that, we want to get to some news on multiple Houston Texans and Dallas Cowboy players tested positive for COVID-19. Ezekiel Elliott being one of them, star running back for the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, with restrictions being lifted everywhere in Canada included, I guess it's kind of be expected. It's now that we know what we're facing, it's not as jarring. Like I remember when Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell tested positive in the NBA, like I was like, and Tom Hanks and everything shut down. I'm like, is this a death sentence? Like we don't know. We know right now that for athletes, it mostly isn't unless they have some kind of, like even Von Miller, I think, asthma and he got through it. So, happy to hear that. But at the same time, it is cause for concern because we don't know if it's going to impact the NFL's timeline of starting the schedule and season on time. What was your reaction, Ozzy, when you first saw this? And was it different than when other athletes were testing positive for it in March?
Yeah, my reaction to it now was like, holy crap, this is like truly, and this has been the trademark with COVID. It's spreading like wildfire. You've got all these athletes, they're joining in on the Black Lives Matter rallies and stuff like that. Obviously, tons of congestion in those streets with people. So it comes to me as not really a surprise, but a lot of that, like, yeah, you asked about how I was reacting in March. I was with you. I was like, holy crap, what is happening? Tom Hanks is dying is kind of how I thought of it. And as soon as Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell tested positive, I was like, yeah, like the NBA is finished. Like, how are they going to handle this? But yeah, as of now, it's kind of like, well, it's just like, whatever at this point. I mean, like we know, like you said, we know what it is. It's still obviously startling. It's like, damn, it's in the NFL now. And for me, that kind of selfishly, obviously, like it kind of made me like question how this impacts the start of the regular season. Are they going to, like, obviously it's still months away, but how does this impact it in terms of the NFL's kind of preparedness to start like training camps and stuff in July or August? So I was kind of curious how they would manage that, seeing that one of the big stars of the NFL now has COVID-19.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, we're still going ahead and doing it. We're still clinging on to that September 10th start date or whatever the hell it is. Yeah.
And I even saw something too, that the NFL would have no plans of like shutting down unless there was a widespread kind of infection. Like I think they kind of plan on taking the NBA's model of, if a player tests positive, he isolates and gets tested until they wait until he's asymptomatic, and then they'll test him, I think 2 more times there. And then if both those come back negative, he gets to go back in and play. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't even sound like they've even thought about hub cities or anything like that. Like they're adamant on just going as is. And I think they're hoping the testing by then, or they're not hoping, they're counting on it. The testing by then is so rigorous that guy tests positive, get him out of there and you're good to go. And who was it? I forget which team. I read an article. They're almost thinking of having a quarantine quarterback where, like in Seattle's case, a QB room, if all of a sudden all three of your QBs test positive for COVID, they can't play a game and you don't have a quarterback. So they're saying you leave a quarterback isolated from the entire team. And, he just stays in his apartment or, practices on his own time and like zooms in or whatever, but he's separate from the team. And so if Russ and the third string, I think they say they take the second string and isolate him from the team. So if Russ and the third string quarterback say got COVID, God forbid, then Geno Smith could come in as the healthy quarterback because he's been isolating this whole time. So it's an interesting concept. It'll be really interesting how everyone uses the chess pieces to move around and figure out how to battle through this thing. But it's truly unprecedented times for sure. Yeah. And it doesn't look like we'll be getting to go to our Patriots Seahawks game, Oz. You'll have to wait another 4 years for that. But
you hate to see it.
You hate to see it, but I mean, that's first
God
world
damn
problems,
you, COVID. So. Yeah, we don't get to spend our thousands of dollars on a trip.
Yeah, what? Supporting the local U.S. economy.
Yeah.
All right, Ozzie, let's get into the AFC West. This division is probably the hardest out of all the AFC ones to do. The AFC North you look at and you see Baltimore's the kingpin there, and then you kind of see it filtering through maybe Pittsburgh and Cleveland you have some troubles with. And then the AFC East was a little more difficult, but like not in the sense that there's so many high-powered, high-octane teams in there. And that's the problem we run into with this division. The Broncos certainly on the rise, the Chiefs defending Super Bowl champions, the Chargers looking re-energized and young, and the Raiders, depending on QB play, have some talent on that team. So let's start with the Denver Broncos. A little tip of the cap to Tomac. I predict them. I'm going to just go off my prediction right away and then say why. So I have them going 10-6. And the reason for that is I think they got Casey in a steal for a 7th round pick. And then they fortified their secondary by trading for AJ Boye, as we discussed on previous episodes. And that to me, like, just only makes the rich richer on that defense. And we've talked about the weapons they have there. Von Miller goes without saying. And to me, if you have that, and then on offense, they draft Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler to go with Sutton. Like, now you're looking at, oh my God. And then they signed Melvin Gordon too to go with Phillip Lindsay in the backfield. The only thing I'm concerned about is the offensive line, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong if they've taken measures to correct that. I really like this team and where it's going. My other concern is Vic Fangio. I'm not sure how sold I am on him as a head coach and to be able to lead a team to the playoffs. But I do like the Pat Shurmur hire on offense. I think that's going to help Drew Lock a lot. Shurmur's not head coach material, but we saw when he was, I think, offensive coordinator for the Vikings, what they were able to do there. So I have confidence in that. And I think I love Lock. I think he's going to really explode this year. So 10-6 Broncos. I see a big year for them back in contention. Austin, your thoughts?
I'm just blown away. Like 10-6 for the Broncos in that division. It just makes me think like, holy crap, what is this? The Broncos of 2013?
Right.
And that's just I think that's just the Patty Mahomes effect. I just think that everybody else has to go like 5-11 in this division. But
right.
I'm with you. I really like Locke. I really like what this team has done on offense. You mentioned it, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. I love the double dipping at wide receiver for the first 2 draft picks. They're like
speedy guys too.
Yeah. And speaking of speed, they drafted the fastest tight end in this class, if I'm not mistaken, and Albert Okwuegbunam. Everybody's been calling him Albert O. So Albert O. You pair him up with Noah Fant as
and Jake Butt.
And Jake Butt, of course, the legend Jake Butt. And if you're listening to this and you're like, who the hell's Jake Butt? It's okay. We don't even know. But he is – we just know that he could be good. Who knows?
He could be good.
He'll get traded to the Patriots for a 7th round conditional, and he'll turn into the next Rob Gronkowski.
For those listening or watching at home, take a drink. Ozzie made his Pat's mention of the week. So we're just going to make a 3rd and wrong bingo and a drinking game. And every time Ozzie mentions the Pats or Tom Brady, unsolicited, you just take a drink, and that one's on us. So anyways, Ozzie, as you were.
That's a good one, actually. But yeah, so I really like the idea of them just loading up on offense. You've got the defense, as you mentioned, AJ Boye, the Jarrell Casey trade for a 7th to the Titans was just insane. So I really like what they're doing here. I had something written down just in terms of their but anyways, nonetheless, if Drew Lock is their quarterback, they're going to know this year. Like there's no excuses. You've got all the talent on offense, which in a way I really liked how the Broncos did this. You surround your young quarterback, your second-year quarterback, with all the talent in the world. And if he doesn't perform, next year you're on to the next quarterback in my mind. Like I think that they did this really well because they have a really young offense. You had asked about offensive line while I'm getting distracted here. Lloyd Cushenberry at center. He was a steal in the mid-rounds of the draft. So, but that being said, you're surrounding Locke with a team that's going to be built to win now. Actually, like it's crazy to say that when you're in the division with Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs, but honestly, I think that they are in that position. And so I guess I wasn't too far off. I was a little blown away by your 10-6. I have them at 9-7, so it's not even that bad. But I just like it. It's just such a young team on offense, and it's just not a team that like I think, holy crap, the Broncos could be playoff contenders. But like looking at this team and how it's built, I mean, if you load up on offense and maybe you can go toe to toe with the Chiefs, maybe you split the series with them. I don't know.
Auzzie, it just came to my mind because you mentioned the 2013 Broncos, which remind me of the 2013 Seahawks. So take a drink because I mentioned the Seahawks unsolicited. You have a second-year quarterback, a really young, talented defense, and a defensive-minded head coach. Could this team be a sleeper, Auzzie? A Super Bowl sleeper, the Broncos? I'm just saying. It just all came to my mind right now. This is all off the dome. I did not have any of this written down. I just have my predictions. I did not have Super Bowl sleeper written down, but I'm thinking like Russell Wilson in his second year, Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate. They added Percy Harvin, and I was like, oh, okay. And now you have Drew Lock, his second year, wears number 3, and has Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Sutton, and a defensive-minded head coach, and the running backs are a little different. It can't be exactly the same situation. That team's very unique, but just saying,
Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, though.
Yeah.
2 Pro Bowlers at running back. Like you're going to take all the pressure off of them. That's the typical saying. Take all the pressure off your quarterback for the good run game. I don't know, Steve. I think you're kind of onto something there. Like this is a team that if they make it into the playoffs, who says no? If they're healthy on defense and everything, like this is a team that, like, I don't see why that would be. Like it's on the surface again, it's kind of like holy shit, sleeper Super Bowl contender. But why not? This team, like if Locke is a hit, I don't see.
A lot hinges on Locke, and I mean we had a small sample size of them because they inexplicably went with Joe Flacco for the first half of the season. But I believe Locke finished with 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. I don't know the rest of his splits, but I mean it's promising for a rookie quarterback coming into a pretty dysfunctional team at the time, and they've done a lot to correct that over the offseason.
Yeah, and I just. We were talking about the offensive line, and I'm still stuck on that, so I'm going to finish up that point.
Yeah.
Really, the only part that the only position on the offensive line that the Broncos are kind of lacking is left tackle. Garrett Bowles is the most penalized tackle in the game, and much to Tomac's dismay. But they just signed Jawan James last offseason, one of the better right tackles. Unfortunately, he battled injuries last year, but if he can get back to form, you've got him. They signed Graham Glasgow from the Lions, who's pretty good, and they drafted Lloyd Cushenberry, as I mentioned, and drafted Dalton Reisner a year ago. So this team is like front to back. It's kind of like actually really good.
Yeah. And you know who else didn't have the greatest O-line in Super Bowl run? Russell Wilson. So I'm just saying, again, don't hold it against me. I'm just saying. All right, let's move on to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Not a lot to say on their offseason. They added running back Edwards-Helaire. I hope I'm saying that right. Helaire, yeah. Who Andy Reid says he thinks he's better than Brian Westbrook, legendary running back for the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2000s. That's some heavy praise there. And who are they running out? Damian Williams last year, the Chiefs were?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think he's still with the team. So now you got another guy to pair up with him. And like, if this guy is as good as Reid thinks he is, and it's a guy who Patty Mahomes wanted, and I know we're all don't draft a running back in the first round, or some of us are, or the analytics guys are. But I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I mean, why not? You're already pretty stacked at every other position. You're tight against the cap right now. So off-season additions, there really weren't any, and they didn't trade Chris Jones like I thought they were. No, not Chris Jones. Who am I trying to think of right now?
Chris Jones, the defensive tackle
Or defensive end.
or defensive end, yeah.
Yeah, he's still there, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
They
who am I
franchise
thinking?
tagged him.
Yeah, they franchise tagged him. And I thought they were going to trade him because the Seahawks are rumored to be interested. Still got Frank Clark, still got Tyrann Mathieu. So not a lot of turnover there. It's really just going to come down to that Super Bowl hangover. And I mean, the last 5 years, I wrote those down. The Pats last year, wild card loss. The Eagles the year before that, divisional loss against the Saints. The Pats the year before that made it to the Super Bowl, loss to the Eagles. The Broncos missed the playoffs the year after they won the Super Bowl. And the Pats, after they beat the Seahawks, lost in the AFC Championship game. So unless you're the New England Patriots, it's pretty tough to make it back to the big game. But Auzzie, we've been hearing Dynasty talk about this team because Andy Reid and Patty Mahomes might be the most dynamic head coach quarterback combo there has been since Belichick and Brady. Mm-hmm. And, you know, not a lot of talk about in their offseason. So I have them going 12-4. I think this team's a shoo-in for the 1 or 2 seed. Now, could a team like the Broncos upset them? I don't know. I'm just saying. That's the title of this episode. I'm just saying AFC West predictions. But I have this team minimal making it to the AFC Championship game, in my opinion. So whatever happens after that, I'm not sure. But this team just seems primed for another run, and I'd be baffled if they didn't win this division, as tough as it is to predict. So
yeah, it's the Chiefs. Like you said, they didn't have a lot in terms of offseason additions or whatever. They learned the price of doing business as being Super Bowl champions, as the Patriots have come to see this. Like, you want your team to make moves and stuff like that, but when you pay for some of these better players to have a Super Bowl contending team, that means you can't sign them all the time. So they had very little cap space to work with, but I mean, they addressed kind of, I guess, their need at running back. You could say corner, but when you've got Patrick Mahomes at the helm, like, do you really need corners? You could just outscore them every time. Like, you
could be down 24-0 and just
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You could be down 24-14 or whatever in the last couple minutes of the
21-10. Yeah,
21-10. Thank you. In the Super Bowl, and just
against one of the most feared defenses of this decade, I might add. I mean, there's been some really good ones that we outlined probably almost a year ago now, but yeah, it's pretty tense up there.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're those pesky Chiefs, like they just don't need a defense really. And the fact that they brought back Chris Jones when they didn't think they'd have the cap to do it, I mean, it's crazy that they do have as much talent still on this roster as they do. And they brought back Sammy Watkins. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, apparently, he is just like the perfect fit for this offense. I didn't watch a lot of tape on him, but just every like podcast I listened to and every scouting website that I had seen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the guy for the Chiefs before the draft, and then they go ahead and draft him with a luxury pick in the first round. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm with you though, Steve. I have this team going 12-4. I don't want to just lock them in for the Super Bowl again, as much as people just want to love Patrick Mahomes and everything like that. This, like, going through the AFC as we have over the last month and a half or so, there's some really good teams here on the rise. And you just mentioned the Denver Broncos, and I didn't really think about them as a contender before, but looking at that team, I'm trying to spot a weakness. And so when there's teams out there like that, I don't want to just peg. It's like you wouldn't want to do it with the Patriots every year. I'm not going to do it with the Chiefs every year. Mm-hmm. As dominant as an offense as they are, I think that there's some teams out there that are pretty pesky. And we don't want to forget about the Baltimore Ravens, who were 14-2 last year. So there's some really good teams out there. But anyways, this is the AFC West, and I'll get back on track. 12-4 for the Chiefs. Take it or leave it.
There we go.
I'm just saying.
I hate to say it, Auzzie, and I'm just saying, but I think OJ Simpson in all his Twitter videos ends it with "I'm just saying," and I don't know why I thought of that, but I was just so
you're not even original.
No, I'm not, but I didn't even think about that when I first said it, but now I'm just like, oh shit. So
well, at least you came clean on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, if someone out there is also watching OJ Simpson Twitter videos, I've come clean. Now you know. Okay, let's talk Las Vegas Raiders. They're making the big move from Oakland to the desert, building that huge stadium out there, which looked pretty cool, actually. Except they made it black. I mean, I feel like it's going to attract a lot of heat in the desert. But I'm no architect.
You're not paying
Raiders,
that
I have going.
AC bill.
No, I'm not. Everyone who's losing their money in Vegas is. Raiders, I have them going 6-10, and this is such a swing team. Like I could see them going like 9-7 and pushing for that 7th seed, which we were talking about before the episode. I might have like 16 teams going 9-7 just because I have no idea what the 7th seed entails and like who will get in and what the tiebreakers will be like. But I mean, I don't mind their additions this offseason. Demarius Randall, the safety, Nelson Aguilar, who, it's depth for that. Mariota at quarterback. I've been saying for like the last 2 years, Carr should have competition, but he just keeps getting the keys to the castle. And then they went and drafted Henry Ruggs, who is the speedster who I know some point out that he might have bust potential. Bust is a really strong word. I don't think he has bust potential, but he wasn't my favorite receiver. I much preferred Judy and Lamb. But, I mean, hey, it's still one of the top big 3 receivers that we had mentioned prior to the draft. And then they took Arnett, the corner, which many thought was a reach with the 19th pick, I believe that was, and they solidified that. But then they went offense, 3 of their first 4 picks. So they're obviously, like we said, there's not really a lot of excuses for Locke. There's not going to be a lot of excuses for either Carr or Mariota. And I'm just not confident in either of those two. And, I mean, Gruden has a 10-year contract, and I think he's into year 3 now. He's going to year 3. I believe that's correct. Yeah, 2018 was his first year. So he's going into his 3rd year of this 10-year contract. I mean, he has time, and I don't see them. It'd be a very Raiders thing to fire him like 4 years into that, but you never know.
Could you imagine?
I think they go 6-10 and go get the quarterback next year. I don't know if either of these two guys are the answers. And as much as I like how much they built up their linebacking core with the draft and free agent acquisitions, they've done a few things. I really like that rookie safety from last year who hurt his shoulder early on. How come I can't remember his name? Oh,
I'm pulling it up. Jonathan Abram.
Yes, Abram. I really like him. So there's pieces there, but compared to the rest of the division, I'm just not sold. And 6-10 seems like a safe record. They're not going to bottom out and go 3-13, in my opinion. I think this team can be competitive. They're going to give some teams some headaches. They might steal a division game or 2 against any one of these 3 teams. But as far as in the playoff picture, I just don't see it.
Fair enough. I'm with you in the sense that they're the biggest swing team because I don't hate Derek Carr as much as you hate Derek Carr. I actually don't mind Derek Carr. He's
fair.
Just there's like mediocre and then there's Derek Carr, and he's like right there for me. So
yeah,
I think that with a guy like Henry Ruggs, who some have labeled as like Tyreek light, he's got some of that skill.
Tyreek,
Tyreek. That's some lofty expectations, but then you said as well, like, and I think you might have said this because there was some analytics that came out pre-draft about how Henry Ruggs didn't run certain routes or something like that. There's some analytic out there that was saying Henry Ruggs was going to be a bust for X reason. Terrible podcasting, I know. I wish I had the stats. But nonetheless, so he's obviously a boom or bust guy. And if he can kind of hit that, like even if he's just like a minor hit, like he's just like an average player, just does his stuff. He's a speedster nonetheless. You pair him up get him in the slot. You've got Tyrell Williams, who did pretty well as a wide receiver 1 last year. I'm speaking as the fantasy owner who had him, so I mean I loved him. You got Hunter Renfrow, who was kind of off and on, but they get Zay Jones from the Bills, who was also I guess you would call him a bust because he was a 1st round pick if I remember correctly, but you got some speed on this offense, and so I think that Derek Carr is a guy that could utilize these weapons, and like he's definitely, like I said, he's there. He's like an average quarterback who can, with the right amount of talent, he can kind of work up some magic. He's got a good arm. I've seen him make some pretty incredible plays, especially against the Chiefs. Actually, I don't know. I'm not going to go on that tangent. Never mind. But anyways, this is a team that I could see making a lot of games interesting. So I have them going 8-8.
Ooh.
And that's just like my default right now is like, oh, they could be really bad. But I mean, I believe in Derek Carr, but I also believe in Marcus Mariota. So if Derek Carr sucks, I think Marcus Mariota could come in and win a couple games like with this team, the way that they have it. But I mean, I don't know. Marcus Mariota, I've been believing in for 5 years, and nothing's coming.
One thing, the most I'm looking forward to with Mariota is how cool he's gonna look in that black Raiders jersey, silver helmet, and if he brings that black visor back, man,
Oh,
like that might be top 5 QB swag right there. QB drip. Sorry, swag's not used anymore. QB drip. Like that's gonna look pretty cool, and it's gonna be a shame when he fumbles 2 times in a game looking that cool. But I believe in Mariota, but I'm cautiously optimistic. It's probably the best phrase for that. So, and you said 8-8. I said 6-10. All right.
one sec, Steve. I actually wanted to add one thing.
Yeah.
It's actually a good idea that they brought in another veteran, because if Derek Carr isn't the answer, then you bring in Marcus Mariota right away. So you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So yeah, like, I mean, it's not much value at saying this, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting concept in terms of team building. Like you get in 2 guys, know what you have right there and then. And then if they're both busts, then you still go get your guy. But at least you tried with like a Marcus Mariota instead. But
it still bothers me Cam Newton's a free agent. And take a drink, because we mentioned Cam Newton every episode unsolicited. But like, he would look cool in a Raiders jersey, you know? And I think him and Gruden would be a lot of fun. Like, oh.
Yeah. Talk about drip. Him and Marcus Mariota in that QB room.
Bro.
Holy.
At least Derek Carr. What are you waiting for, man?
Yeah, why? Why are you paying that man $25 million a year?
Oh. Los Angeles Chargers, Auzzie, moving into the new stadium with their co-renters, co-lessees, the Los Angeles Rams. The Chargers released much cooler uniforms this offseason, so they have that going for them. And they also said goodbye to Phillip Rivers after, 15 years with the team. 2004 he was drafted, so what's that math? Yes, 15 years with the team. Had a great career there. Got to the AFC Championship in 2007, but Phillip played on a torn ACL, and they couldn't beat the undefeated Pats. Damn it. But this offseason, they're giving the keys to Tyrod Taylor, supposedly, because then they went and drafted Justin Herbert, and then they also drafted Kenneth Murray, linebacker, later in that round. So I really like this team's offseason. We talked at length about their free agent additions during our free agent episode. Brian Bulaga, Chris Harris Jr., Linval Joseph, didn't overpay Melvin Gordon. I mean, just everything you look for in team building. And I'm just not sold on that QB room. And I like Tyrod Taylor, and we've talked about this at length, that he's a guy that you can give the keys to, and he won't crash the car like Derek Carr would crash the car. I deserve to be hated on for that one. That was bad.
Take a drink for a Steve dad joke.
Yeah, there we go. But Tyrod Taylor, to me, isn't the guy that's going to necessarily elevate all the talent around him, but he's going to sustain success. And I think our roster is built for success, but they're also fucking cursed when it comes to injuries. And that just bothers me. Like, I don't like banking on that. We've talked about that too. I'm not counting on injuries to happen, but like year in and year out, this team just finds a way to end up half their squads on the IR. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not sold on Justin Herbert. If he had to come in, if Tyrod struggles, the QB room's still iffy to me. But I mean, Tyrod makes a really great like insurance policy if Herbert doesn't pan out, and say they went with Herbert first. But I'm kind of where you're at with the Raiders on this one, Auzzie. I have them going 9-7, but that could be 7-9, that could be 8-8, that could be 10-6. It really depends on the quarterback play and their ability to stay healthy, which I hope they fired their entire training staff from last year, because they just need to stay healthy. That's been the story of their franchise for the last 2 decades, as far as I remember. Drew Brees gets hurt, and they let him walk, and they go with Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson both injured playing in the AFC Championship game. Then this past Keenan Allen, and I didn't even mention Keenan Allen, like he's still there. So I'm iffy on this team, but 9-7 seems like a safe bet. Throw them in one of the 16 teams I have finishing 9-7 and getting in that 7 seed battle. But they could be a playoff team. But even if they make the playoffs, I have a wild card exit for these guys as their peak. So that's my take on the Chargers.
That's fair. I like what you said. Like, this team has a lot of talent on it, and like you mentioned, their free agent acquisitions. They even traded Russell Okung for Pro Bowler Trey Turner at guard, which I really like that move. But yeah, this defense, it's kind of similar with the Broncos. Like, you got a defense that could carry a slacking offense, I think, with Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram on the defensive line, add in Linval Joseph now, Drew Tranquil, and Kenneth Murray now at linebacker, and then Chris Harris Jr. alongside Casey Hayward and Derwin James in the secondary. Like that is
like there's talent there.
that is so good. How the heck do you get Chris Harris Jr.? Jeez. But anyways, so that is, with that being said, is Justin Herbert or Tyrod Taylor the guy? You've talked about this, and that's really the biggest thing. I saw today that Colin Kaepernick could be an option for the Chargers.
That'd be cool.
To bring in as a workout. And honestly, like he could be.
Oh, you said honestly at the same time. I'm taking Kaepernick for both those quarterbacks. I'm not saying that to be edgy. Like, I know he hasn't been in football in a long time, so maybe you let him work out and see what he looks like in a few preseason games. But I think Kaepernick's ability to elevate his team would be more than those two if he was able to resume his 2016 play, which is a long time ago. Not his fault he's out of the league, but I like Kaepernick, man. I'd give him a shot.
Honestly, yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say.
My bad.
I was going to say that, like, he could be a guy that beats out Tyrod Taylor, and who says no as him being your starting quarterback over Justin Herbert? Yeah, you spent a sixth overall pick on Justin Herbert, but that doesn't mean that just because Colin Kaepernick starts week 1 that Justin Herbert's not going to start at all. Like, so I would be totally okay with that. And, but as it stands with those two on the roster, yes, Tyrod Taylor could be good. There's a lot of talent on offense there. Like I said, Keenan Allen, you got Mike Williams, you've got Austin Eckler. So you got the skill position players down. Hunter Henry, who I forgot about, they
tagged him.
So again, you've got the weapons there, but how is the quarterback play going to handle it? Tyrod Taylor just doesn't spark excitement in me. He's, like you said, he's a very safe player. He's going to do things to not screw it up. But in that division, when you've got electric offense in Kansas City, you might have an electric offense in Denver. Who knows how the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be? Like, that's 6 of your games right there. And how the heck are you going to handle it against those types of teams? I have them going 5-11 again.
Ooh.
So a repeat of last year.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
ouch.
This is going to be a very tough division for them with question marks at quarterback. And then the teams that we've mentioned in the AFC already, that's half your schedule gone.
Yeah.
Like, those are some tough teams you're up against. And I don't know, Zach, I wish Zach was here to give us his strength of schedule, but
that's our go-to.
Yeah, I never buy that. But anyways, the eye test for me, it just doesn't look good. And I mean, I'm just saying.
You mentioned I'm just saying. I mentioned the firepower, or you mentioned the firepower in that. I was going to take credit for your statement. You mentioned the firepower in that division, and I'm just thinking, like, I could see Tyrod Taylor putting up a beautiful stat line of like 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, like 76% completion, and they'll lose the game 40-14. Like, because like you just have to keep up with it, and I don't see Tyrod as a guy who's going to push the ball downfield. And if you bring in Herbert to do that, that's when you're going to get the mistakes. So like, you have 2 opposite ends of the spectrum here with both these quarterbacks. You have one that's not going to take as many chances, but if you get yourself into a shootout situation, your defense better be up to task. And then on the other flip side of the coin, you have Herbert, who's probably going to, try to take more chances and roll out and try to make more things happen, but he's going to be more prone to those mistakes as far as based on what his college tape says. So, I mean, Lynn's going to have a real conundrum on his hands on what to kind of deploy, but
all the more reason for Kaepernick, though, because you save your face not save your face because you're not really losing anything, but you get all this publicity by signing Colin Kaepernick, being the team to sign Colin Kaepernick. And then he's a guy that's he went to the Super Bowl against
they lost to the Ravens.
Right? Yeah. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's had success in the league. So he's a guy that's he's got nothing to lose. He's going to come in and he's going to sling it, and he's going to be a guy that can maybe win games in that division if he comes back and can perform at an NFL level.
Yeah.
But I think that he's a perfect, because then if he busts, then it's like, well, whatever. We were the team that signed Colin Kaepernick. Whatever.
We gave him a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go back to Justin Herbert. Everything, like, it's a smooth transition. Worst thing that happens, Colin Kaepernick comes in, he lights it up, your team gets all this publicity, and then what? Like, that's a good thing for your team.
And
it's money coming in.
Speaking of QB drip, man, Kaepernick in those nice Charger blues.
Oh.
And does the bicep kiss, which I don't have the biceps for, so I'm not going to do that anymore. Thank God I'm wearing a hoodie. Colts football. Yeah, no, Kaepernick would be a beautiful signing for that team. And he does have the experience. He went to the NFC Championship against Seattle the next year. And I had a point in my head I was going to make. Oh, yeah, I don't hate Tyrod Taylor. Like, I feel like every time I mention him, I feel like a hater. And I really he was the perfect quarterback for that Bills team that went to the playoffs that year. Like, that defense was so up to par, and he got them there. But then we saw what happened against Jacksonville in that wild card game. Like, he just couldn't do anything there. And then they inexplicably brought in who's that quarterback that throws all those interceptions?
Wait, Josh Allen?
No, the guy who they drafted, he was like a 4th-round pick, and he comes in and he
just Nathan Peterman.
Peterman. I don't know how I forgot about old Peterman there. Peterman. But so, yeah. But I like Tyrod, but the Browns tenure really bothered me because we saw him really struggle, and then Baker came in and broke like the rookie touchdown record. But now everyone's looking at Baker, and we're looking at Baker like, okay, is he that good, or did he just catch everyone by surprise? I still think there's something to be said about his talent. But, I mean, if Baker looked that good, and in conventional wisdom, Baker isn't that good, and Tyrod looked even worse than him with that Browns team, I mean, where does that really leave us? So that just really kind of soured things for me for Taylor. And I feel like that was his shot to take the reins and solidify himself as the starter. And now he's kind of found himself in the same position in Los Angeles. But
I was such a big supporter of Tyrod to the Browns when that year that they drafted Baker. And I was kind of upset when they drafted Baker first overall. I was like, but Tyrod deserves a chance. And so then, of course, that happened and made me look like an idiot. So I'm off the Tyrod Taylor train now.
Yeah, you hate to see it, but we're just saying. Okay, so let's recap, Auzzie. I have Chiefs 12-4 in first in the division, Broncos 10-6 second, and getting probably the 5th or 6th seed there. Chargers in third at 9-7, and depending on how many 9-7 teams I have at the end of this, maybe making the playoffs. And the Raiders at 6-10. And next offseason, they'll finally go get that franchise quarterback they desperately need, or sign Cam Newton or Colin Kaepernick. Your thoughts, Auzzie? How do you have yours shaken out, just as a recap?
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs. I'm with you on the Chiefs 12-4. Got them losing a couple close ones in that division, I think. And then I say it's a tight division, but then I have the Broncos next at 9-7, the Raiders at 8-8, and then the Chargers down at 5-11.
There we are.
Sad boy hours for the Chargers.
Damn. No one's going to go to those games in that new stadium if that's the case. So, yeah, you hope it turns out differently.
Go back to San Diego already, damn it.
Yeah, right. They wronged San Diego there. I don't know the whole story, but they could not get a deal on a new, arena, new stadium. Auzzie, let's talk CFL. And I'm just sad because last weekend was supposed to be week 1. And it just seems like the whole spring just flew by since COVID took place. Like, usually there's like that build up to the start of the CFL season. And now, like, I was supposed to be at a Stamps game Saturday night, and I wasn't, and I was very depressing. Watching them play the Montreal Alouettes, you probably would have been up here, would have had a fire, would have been great.
Heck, yeah.
None of that came to fruition. So here we are waiting. And to make things worse, we have the CFLPA, the Players Association, filing a grievance with the CFL on I wrote down the lack of communication on player salaries, but I don't think that's the case. I think it is the lack of commitment that the CFL has made to the players on paying them beyond their base salary. Cause like there's game incentives and everything that they hit. And right now, a lot of players, like you go on Twitter, CFL, the players are up in arms because there's no communication. The CFL, we talked about this when Ambrosie, the commissioner, went to the government for that $150 million ask, which I have no idea where that's at right now. No one said anything. He didn't even consult the CFLPA. And it's just like, considering you went to business school, Auzzie, I'm not even just saying this to try to be pretentious, but like that's communication. Like you communicate with your union and your organization. And the fact that he didn't do that and didn't have a business plan going and asking for $150 million of taxpayer money, I'm just baffled. And so, you know what? I'm all with the CFLPA in filing this grievance. I think Ambrosie has lost the confidence of the players, the staffs, because now they're announcing operational budget cuts to like I think like front office staff. It's just really doom and gloom right now, which is sad because the CFL, like over the last decade, has really grown from where it was in the 90s when, you know, the riders are using telethons to stay alive. And now here, it just seems like we've come full circle again. They're going out to the government handout, and some of it's out of their power with COVID, but I just really wish there was better kind of more of a tandem with the CFLPA and you know, appearing as a whole unit, collective unit moving forward and trying to keep the league alive and keep a season alive. But it just seems like there's one side's doing all the talking and the other one's just not doing anything. And so I
not
don't know.
not because of their own like that's just because they're being left in the dark.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They can't.
So,
yeah. Like Vernon Adams literally tweeted and it broke my heart. It's like, I got kids to feed, man. Like, what do you like? Spencer Moore of the Alouettes, your fullback, he's working a landscaping job right now. And it's not a pretty picture because, you know, everyone like, oh, CFL is bush league because these guys, and air quotes for those that aren't watching, because they don't make a certain amount of money, but it's still really good football. And I've defended that, and you've defended that. We've all defended that to episodes on end about how top quality CFL football is, and these players deserve better because they really put a great product on the field. And it's just really shitty of whoever's in charge, whether it's Ambrosi or if he's taking orders from the owners, that there's no communication with the players who make this league so great. And it's a trickle down. It's affecting everyone. It sucks. So my rant's done. Auzzie, your thoughts on this? You can unload if you want, or old cherry on top, your call.
Yeah, well, this might just be a little bit of a cherry, but yeah, it's such a tough situation because the players having to work second jobs is already bad enough publicity for the league, and that's been a big knock on it. And now that they're not able to play their games and make their money, the fact that they're not getting, like you said, there might be a lot of money tied up in incentives and stuff like that. That really makes it bad in the sense of that there's not like a fund to pay these players in events like this, or leftover money in general. It just, the league just seems to kind of be scraping by every single year. Like, even when you think about how much these teams sell for, it's less than 20 million for some of them. And it's like, really, in the CFL?
Yeah.
And so it's sad to see that, like, this league that is, like you said, it's a fantastic product and everything, but there's just not safeguards in place for these players. And if you ask me, like, a player that goes out and plays 20 weeks of football and gets battered and bruised and has an off season of maybe 5 months or 4 months or whatever to kind of recover and take their vacation, whatever. If they have to go out and work full time, like back home, it's really, you hate to see it.
Yeah, it's taxing, and not in a sarcastic way. Like, you actually hate to see it. Yeah,
you actually hate to see it because, like, we value, obviously with our podcast, we value sports and athletes so much that, and that's not to just sound as like a toot of the horn, but that's actually because we sit for hours on end watching them play. Like, we enjoy the product that they put out there. And so when I think about somebody that I enjoy watching having to work the drive-through at McDonald's in the off seasons, I'm like, okay, well, that's why would anybody want to do that? Why don't they just like do a better job year round, you know?
Yeah.
And so now to hear that they're they're struggling that way because the league hasn't been, like, the league obviously doesn't have that kind of money to be forking out.
No,
but
I think
the fact that they're in this position.
Yeah. Ambrosi said they lost money. So
yeah,
that's
really good.
Yeah.
And so now that they're trying to get like a buyout from the government, it's concerning, and it kind of makes me wonder if it's only a matter of time before like a giant comes in and buys out the league, seeing that they know kind of what the.
I'd hate to see that.
Yeah, you'd hate to see that.
Everyone's always like, everyone's always like, oh, make it into a developmental league. It's like, no, I don't want to watch a developmental league. Like, the CFL is its own game. It's been around for 100+ years. Like, let it be. It just needs way better business practices from the top down. So when the amateur agency eventually blows up, we're going to buy the CFL and we're going to save the league. So all in due time.
You're goddamn right. We'll use all of the money in the amateur agency's bank account, buy the CFL, and then it'll be the CFL by the amateur agency.
And then they'll have to come on the podcast. So
yeah.
I
didn't hear what you said there. You cut out.
Oh, Glad the connection's dropping out. So that's all we got for everyone right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a shorter episode. We around 40 minutes, I presume.
45, yeah. Good
45
job.
minutes, not bad. Folks, we hope to get some interviews lined up here in the next couple of weeks. We know you enjoy those, and we love hearing players' perspectives. And what a better time to get their perspective when, they got some time on their hands. So we're hoping to get some things lined up for you guys, and that'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. If not, we'll be back next week with our NFC predictions. Not sure which division we'll start with yet. That's a surprise for you. That's for us to find out and you to find out, because we don't even know yet. So in any event, you can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. You can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. And be sure to follow all our socials at The Amateur Agency. Auzzie's been doing a great job splicing up 5-minute clips of our content here, just to kind of put out there for debate's sake, and engage with us, man. Like, if you guys want to, you guys disagree with something we said, you think the Chargers are going 16-0, you think Tyrod's the GOAT, let's hear it. I'd love to chat with you guys about that. Comment section, DMs, you just name it. So I'm looking forward to seeing you and conversing with you there. Auzzie, where can the fine folks find you?
Heck yeah. The fine folks, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AustinPaul_. That's Austin with a Y, not an I. Yeah, I check out the YouTube channel, you cowards.
Do it up.
Slaving away out there.
Thanks for tuning in. We're 2 episodes away from episode 69. Just fun fact. And Godspeed.